All right, bot fans, happy new year and welcome back to another edition of Red Square, Blue Square, your go-to for BattleBots recap and reaction. Hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and a bright outlook on 2021. I am joined by two of, well, my personal favorites and probably a lot of people's favorites out there tonight. And we've got not one, but two episodes to cover because I took a 2-week break and BattleBots only one, but we're going to get through it. We're going to do this. So without further ado, any more delay, in the red square, we have the man who, if BattleBots was a theme park, he would be the biggest water slide in the park. It is Ricky Willems of Mammoth. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
And in the blue square, he is a bad man, and he is one of my all-time favorite villains of BattleBots. The man with the tombstone, Ray Billings. Welcome, Ray. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? I love the hat, by the way. That's really cool.
Yes, the hat is one of my favorite things to wear right now if I can ever get it to fit. It seemed appropriate for tonight, which reminds me, if you have not seen episode 4 of BattleBots, are you a BattleBots fan? Like, come on. I know it was on Christmas Eve, but still, you've had a couple of weeks to watch it, and there was even a week off. And then if you haven't seen episode 5, well, stop, hammer time, go and watch it right now. It's an incredible episode, and we are going to talk about both of those right now. And if you haven't seen Bounty Hunters, well, we're in the same boat because I don't have Discovery Plus, and I haven't seen it either. So, oh boy, there has been a lot of action, and Ray, we'll start with you. You are now 1-1 after you picked apart poor Slapbox. Now, your son Justin couldn't be at the tapings because of other things that he had and the rescheduling and just a whole mess of things happened. So you kind of had a different crew down there, and where some people said that, you know, like Maddie Vasquez from Whiplash said, well, being quarantined and being at home kind of made it easier for us to prepare. But then you have the Woolley twins who couldn't go at all because of their, you know, work obligations because of the reschedule. So there's two sides to this, but here's you that's like, yeah, I could probably still do it because you're usually a kind of a 2 or 3 man crew. But not only are you competing, you're a mentor to one of the youngest bot competitors in BattleBots history, and then you're like an advisor to another team. Like, where did you find the time to do all this?
It has been a busy, hectic year. There's no other way to put it than that, for sure.
I'll second that.
Yeah, it was a handful taking 2 heavyweights down there to run. So, you know, we had Perfect Phoenix, we had Tombstone, and we didn't really, I had bodies, but I didn't have the same ones I would usually have to keep the robot running. So I had enthusiastic people, but not necessarily with the same level of experience. And so it really put an extra layer of work on both me and Rick, basically, to keep both machines running. And so I don't ever get much sleep at a robot event, but I got a lot less sleep at this one than I have at many of them I've been to.
Ricky, for you, since you are still very new to the world of BattleBots anyway, not necessarily combat robotics, but how did you feel going into this season, having just completed your first full season and making a big splash in the world of BattleBots? And now they reschedule, there's COVID, there's protocols, and you're going to fight huge. I mean, what's the emotions like?
Oh, all over the place. So it was... we're somewhere in between also as to whether this helped or hurt us. I mean, I was not able to access the shop and the robot for a long period of time, but then I was able to, so I got more time to hone and fine tune things. And I think compared to a lot of the robots there, especially some of these robots were turned around so quickly and were so new. I was so impressed with so many of the builders that showed up with just brand new untested stuff. But we did end up with something that was a little more fine-tuned than we did last year, or that we would have without the delay. So net, you know, effect of it was we ended up with a better Mammoth, but I didn't know that going into it. I didn't know that when the show was abruptly postponed, all that. So, and then to have Huge right out the box. I mean, we absolutely knew we were going to fight Huge. They were literally begging us last year. They were like, "Can you just get one more fight in? Just one more, please." And Huge and I, or Jonathan and I, both told him, like, "Dude, no, everything's over. It was the last day. We're packing up. We can't do it. Everything's broken. We want to. If you had asked us yesterday, we would have been there."
Yeah, it was such an entertaining fight, which I think a lot of people, when they look at dream matchups, you have, you know, the ones like Witch Doctor versus Hypershock, and you have you guys versus Huge, and Tombstone versus anybody, really. It seems like a dream matchup to just go up against Ray Billings and his bot. But, you know, it's a dream match because you guys are just such the unconventional bot in there and the size. But I don't think people were excited about what the fight would look like. It was more of, how is this going to work? And then it works, and it works great. And now we're like, wow, okay, so we can check that one off. And now we kind of want it again. So were you impressed yourself with how well the fight went?
I was a little too busy experiencing that whole event. I didn't know. Emotions weren't a thing, right? It was just raw reaction and adrenaline. But going back, I was actually a little disappointed. Like, originally, I thought we'd come out, and it was a last-minute decision to use that new experimental flexible weapon, right? I thought originally, if we fought Huge, I'd use the hard weapon, and I thought we'd be able to punt him up, 10, 12, 15 feet in the air, which if we have a hard weapon, we can do that. With the floppy weapon, you can keep hitting, and it's much more durable and everything, but you can't get the height and launches. And Huge is the ideal thing. I mean, it's literally up on tripods, just begging to be smacked. Like, that, if anything is going to go flying, it would be Huge. So in retrospect, can I go on the ride again?
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a rematch. I do love a good rematch, especially if they do it 3 times in a season, which I know you guys were limited on your time and your fights, only having 3 regular season fights. But Ray, you're in the win column after the previous episode, finally.
Yeah.
And, so many people, when I say I like to try to compare, robots and their teams or their captains, something about them to a professional wrestler, just like in their style. A lot of people want to say that you're like the Undertaker because you're called Tombstone, and his finishing move was the Tombstone. Sure. He is such a stone cold Steve Austin personality, where he just goes out, he raises hell, and he leaves. Like, that is Ray Billings to a T. So
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. That's good. I'm fine with that.
You're welcome. So you have Endgame out the gate, and they wanted it, they got it, and you're 0-1, and then you get Slapbox, and now you're 1-1. So at this point, since you are one of those bounty hunter bots considered a legend, like, is there any bot out there that makes you nervous, or are you still just going to go out there, and if you win, you win, and if you lose, well, I'll get the next one?
You have to have that attitude if you're going to show up there and compete. You do this long enough, you're going to win some matches, you're going to lose some matches. That's just going to happen. So the trick there is, when you lose a match, to not lose focus. You don't go around and kick yourself in the butt. You don't, oh, woe is me, sky is fallen sort of thing. You go back to the pitch, you get the robot ready to go, and you go do the next match. This is what you have to do to keep going.
Well, that's why we love you, Ray. And Slammo is now 1-0 over Pain Train. I think Craig Danby finally has a winner, literally. And I like the design. I do. I like the body slam. Scorpios over Perfect Phoenix. Ray, I hate to go back to you so soon, but obviously it's relevant with Perfect Phoenix and Tyler. What is it like for you to kind of watch this and have to be hands off?
This was Tyler's first chance at driving big robots. I think the biggest he's driven up to this point in time was a 30-pounder. So this is his first chance at a full-size robot. And, that robot was not 100% when we got it and we took it to the event. I mean, don't get me wrong, I got it running and whatnot, but I think it was under 200 pounds. So it was well under the weight limit for the class, because it was designed around a different weight category. So the big thing there was to get him in the arena, get him a couple of matches, get some experience, and then we'll worry about updating it down the road and do something different with it. And I think he's held his own really well with some pretty tough robots in the process. And honestly, I think for 11 years old, having a camera shoved in his face, his poise was really good. I think he handled it very well.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think he's composed himself very well. And Ricky, you were a rookie last year. I mean, what's it like now being in second year, looking at somebody as young and like Tyler going at this?
First off, I want to give Tyler some major credit here, right? Because if Tyler was anyone else coming in and in any kind of different situation, they would not throw him in a match against Scorpios, right? That's that's something you warm up to. So the fact that wasn't just over like that is the opposite of miraculous. It's a testament to first off that robot and how well, 15 years later it's doing. And second off to Tyler, that he's able to jump in and do that. So first off, hats off to him. Bravo. Second off, it's no joke whether you're 11 or 100 or 11 or whether you've got a new robot or whatever it is. It is a jarring experience showing up there. There's a lot to handle. There's a lot of things going on around you, and obviously he had help, and I can't imagine a better helper than Ray, but that's still a lot to take in, and to be able to go in and focus on your robot and compete is a stunning achievement. And last of all, just to Tyler, I'm so jealous of you. I was designing so many robots at 11, so I am so happy for him to get the opportunity to do that, and he's clearly put the time and the effort and the passion into it in smaller robots. So again, hats off. That's fantastic.
Then we had a decision, unanimous, Mad Catter over Ribot. Malice over Shatter, split decision, Malice 2-0. Bloodsport over Endgame, a knockout. I'm wearing my Bloodsport shirt because I don't have a Mammoth shirt yet. So
yeah, we cut you out of that last year. I think we'd run out by that time, but we'll get
you did. I was very sad. So we'll talk about Bloodsport here in a second, but Chomp over Gamma 9, 500-pound walker bot. Now, look, I'll be the first to admit that I was a huge fan of Zoe and Chomp with their old design, because that thing would just come out and just swing where it lifts the whole body off the ground. And it's just crazy to watch. And if it connected, it was a thing of beauty. And so I'm watching this walker bot go out there, and it's like a tank with legs, and it's lining up its shot, and it just starts picking apart Gamma 9. And it was very fun to watch, but I don't know, part of me just misses, Chomp 1.0 or whatever, where it would go out there and just swing like a madman and had flames come out every once in a while. Ricky, what do you think? Is this a more badass Chomp, or were you just impressed to see a bot walk out into a fight?
It's definitely more badass. I mean, it's a formidable robot, just in terms of weight alone, and the fact that they've got the walking system down. The power behind that hammer is absurd. I mean, you mentioned the old Chomp would pop up in the air. New Chomp does, and it weighs twice as much. So the oomph behind that is great. That said, it's still new. They definitely have some kinks to work out in that design also.
It's an unbelievable bit of engineering. So you go over there and you start looking at all the parts, and every single part is meticulously CNC machined. It's even got like a perfect shiny surface finish. All of the engineering of it is fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for a bot like that, because clearly it opens the door now to a lot of other possibilities, especially with that 500-pound weight limit, if you can successfully achieve what is a walker bot. Fun to watch. I just don't know how competitive that they can be as far as an entertainment aspect, which brings us to tonight's episode that we just watched. Very entertaining. Black Dragon over Claw Viper. Knockout. Black Dragon moves on to 2-0. Jackpot over Ghost Raptor. The bot, as they say, on a budget, even though I know Rusty, I think, was pretty under budget. And Ray, like, Tombstone can't be that expensive. I mean, I know you bring 3 of them usually with you, but just, one bot itself that hasn't struck me as overly expensive. But what do you think of Jackpot? Is this a winning formula?
I think Jackpot is a really well built, well designed piece. It's a new robot, so they're still feeling out some. There are always new bot bugs. It always happens that way. I think it's got potential, certainly. And it's built fairly solidly. So I'd keep an eye out for it. It's actually a pretty impressive machine.
Now, Ricky, you guys obviously had to think outside the box for Mammoth and how to piece it together. And I don't know what your budget looks like or how much that plays into what materials you use. But with a bot being $4,000, is it more of that they got pieces and materials from somewhere that they didn't have to pay, or did they decide that, well, we can kind of lax on this or this? Because we saw a Kevlar armored bot that did not do very well, and I don't know if that saves you a whole lot of money, but what did you have a chance to interact with Jackpot, and where's the money saving happening?
I don't know if Ray saw under the hood of Jackpot, the internals, but that is a miracle that thing works as well as it does. Now, the team behind it, they are very talented, and the reason they can pull off what they did is because they know where they can push the bounds and where they can't. But that is a pile of wrenches and hopes and dreams in there. I mean, there's motors stuck, back to back in ways that are just really a gamble, which is fitting, right? But
I didn't see it with the cover off, so now I'm curious. I'm gonna
see if you can.
I'm gonna go chase him down.
It's a marvel under there, and picking the right components and making do with what you can get. Our first Mammoth was a little under $2,000, I think, and it was made from junk. You can do a lot with a little if you know what you're doing and if you listen to the people around you. It's one of the things that I've been so grateful in getting into BattleBots is that there's so much tribal knowledge and everyone is so freely willing to give it. It's amazing, but it's not lucky. It's a series of good decisions and talented people that made that happen.
Jackpot 2.0 looks like kind of the new death roll, if you had to put like a comparison to it. Sub-Zero is in the win column. Good for Mr. Logan Davis over Grabot with a knockout. That was a fun match to watch. And then we're going to skip the next one for obvious reasons. We'll come back to it. Fusion got a win, another member of the Ewert family. I don't know how many of them there are at this point, but it seems like every year there's another one popping up. And they get the win by knockout over Aegis. Is that how you pronounce it? Aegis, I think.
I don't remember. Yeah, and they were pitted not far from me, and I still don't remember how they pronounced it. So
yeah, I heard them say Aegis, but on either Chris or Kenny said Aegis. So your guess is as good as mine.
The one time I heard it was Aegis, but yeah.
Well, that's the way the word is generally said. Yeah. Who knows?
But this was a tale of two fights because Fusion in their first fight did not fare very well at all, and then this fight they picked the bot about as badly as you did Slapbox, Ray, and it still seemed like there was some concern, and I know that Will is never done with Hypershock, and there's that running joke, but like how many of you guys show up where not everything is done with your bot yet?
A whole bunch more than should show up that way. Okay. It's not as bad as it used to be. I can remember back in the day when BattleBots was on Comedy Central, and there were people that showed up with boxes of parts and nothing assembled, and then would spend 3 days assembling the robot in the pits, and a quarter of those would actually work and pass safety. So most of them tend to at least show up fairly complete, but it seems like there's always something left to do, and some teams push that a little further than they should.
But Ricky, because of the size of Mammoth, do you guys have to piece it together at least just like, okay, part A, B, C, D, done, or do you guys still have to put some actual stuff together?
We send Mammoth in a semi-assembled state. It's not quite an IKEA piece of furniture, but it's you can't ship a full-size Mammoth, or at least you can't ship 2 or 3, which is what we do. So even disassembled, we've got 2 8-foot long, 4-foot tall, 4-foot wide crates that ship all the Mammoth stuff. And I'm always surprised. Thank you, BattleBots, by the way. Thank you for letting us do that, because they sent a forklift this year to help get it on, because they about broke the crate last year. So just other thanks. But the long and short of it is that essentially we take everything apart and put it all back together on set, and it took us the first full day to do that, especially because we did get one robot fully together before we left and tested and all that, but we never had it painted. We painted it before we ever or we painted after all of our testing, but before we put it in the box. And we never had the second robot up and tested, so we had our hands full the first couple of days.
Understandable. Do what you gotta do. You guys performed well. I mean, you guys are one of the few that has only showed up kind of one time, really. Everybody else has had, well, I mean, there's a lot that have had 2 fights. Not everybody that's 2-0, but we've only seen you guys one time, and I'm hoping we see you again soon. All right, Lockjaw is 2-0 now with a win by decision over Big Dill. Kraken over Witch Doctor. If I had to have you guys guess between Mad Catter and Witch Doctor, who was 0-2 and who was 2-0, we probably would pick the reverse of that. And I think they pass the BattleBots equivalent of the eye test. If you're a college football fan, you know exactly what that means as far as when they choose their 4 for the playoff. But Kraken, man, and I don't say this just because Matt Spurk is a good friend of mine, but I was really impressed not only with their fight against Black Dragon, a very competitive, very ferocious bot, but now with Witch Doctor. Yeah,
all the various complaints over Justice decisions, that's the only one I really disagree with. I think he won that match.
Yeah, I don't think it was an outrage that they lost, but I agree with Ray that that should have been a win. He deserved it.
Yeah.
But we talk a lot about driving skill and then working with what you've got, and Matt just will not stray away from the gimmick bot. He loves what he has in Kraken, the costumes and the fanfare and everything that comes with it. Ray, you're obviously a little bit on a different side of the spectrum, so we'll talk to Ricky first here about this. When you see a bot like Kraken, and you guys kind of have your own gimmick, and you guys may not dress up in mammoth onesies and footy pajamas or something like that.
Don't tempt me.
I would pay to see it.
What you haven't seen all the shows. You don't know what the rest of the season has, okay?
It gets weird, man.
It gets weird, man. What do you think when you see Kraken 1-1 in the main event, like as far as your young tenure in BattleBots and the future of BattleBots moving forward?
So funny story. I was talking with the BattleBots folks the other day, and they were telling me about their reaction. I was asking, hey, what can I do better on Mammoth? What can I do to make a better show, make a better robot, have this better, not just from a competitive standpoint, but from a entertainment standpoint, right? And they brought up immediately Kraken. Like, don't change anything dramatically. Like, look at what Kraken did. They went from not a joke robot, but a heavy themed, oddball, unusual robot. And they got good. There's really no other way to put it, but they got good. I mean, they put the time in, they put the effort in, they put the practice in, and they took it from an oddball to the best control robot that is at BattleBots. It's like #goals Kraken, like bravo to them.
Well, it's so fun to see you guys and these bot styles change and evolve and then work, and they're entertaining when they work as well. So Ray, like I said, you're kind of different end of the spectrum. Do you even have merch? Like, I don't think.
Not necessarily. It's, I fully embrace the idea of doing things that are. I had a robot called the Great Pumpkin that was a 6-foot inflatable pumpkin on top of the robot. So, I know about building themed robots. And the thing that a lot of people miss out on is they immediately look at something like a themed robot like that, and they immediately want to discount it as not being serious. And he will kick your ass if you just discount him as not being serious. it's a very serious robot, and he's a pretty good driver. You put those things together, he's going to get some wins. He's really good at what he does. I like the robot a lot.
Which high praise coming from a man who apparently the centerpiece of your dinner table is your giant nut, and I love that.
Well, I always try, if I'm going to do an interview, I drag it off the trophy shelf and set it here so you can.
My award sits proudly up there. The
see.
award, so it's easy to miss. But I also got a Whiplash tire up there, and I just need more BattleBot stuff in the studio here. But back to this one. Congrats to Matt and Kraken. A well-deserved fight. When I heard unanimous decision, like doves could have flown out of my studio here. I was just so happy because I was like, I just know it's going to go his way. Like it has to go his way. And not to take anything away from Witch Doctor, that it was worthy of main event. It really was.
I agree.
Concerned at first. I was like, and then I was like, I have faith in the production team and BattleBots. I was like, this is going to surprise some people. And it did. So now, the not main event, but the topic of much conversation, Hydra over Huge, unanimous decision in favor of Hydra. I have to note that he did not fire his primary weapon, which obviously got brought up, but let's talk about the strategy of this. Now, I'm a guy who loves the entertainment value of things. If a guy wants to score a touchdown and do an end zone dance, that's fine by me, as long as it doesn't impede the flow of the game. Like, you don't get the group together and do a choreographed dance move. Like, just, do your celebration. Let's move on with it. But you have to respect strategy. And that's why so many teams and coaches are hated, is because they'll find that thing that they need to do against you and use it, and it might not be some 31-28 game that went all 4 quarters. It might be some 12-9 game that was field goal after field goal. And I feel like that's what we saw with Jake Ewert and Hydra, was that he knew what he was up against and he adapted and overcame. And whether you like the way he did it or not, that's strategy, that's competition. So we have a veteran and a second year here. Can't wait to hear your opinions on this. Ricky, we'll start with you as a second-year competitor, and I know that your friends.
Oh boy, hot seat.
Hot seat. Let's have some thought here on just overall.
So, I see your point with the strategy, and I get the idea. And to be fair, I think Jonathan said it well in the after fight interview. Right? Is you can't hold that against Team Hydra. Exactly like that. They're going to do what they can do. I think the anger was with how the judging, and the production, arrived at that. I will say, rewatching it, because I had watched it previously, rewatching it wasn't as blatant. I didn't remember those hammer hits coming in. I still think that I would be hard pressed to give Hydra any points for damage. I didn't see, and it didn't sound like there was any damage done by the hammers. There at least are some some nice gouges in Hydra. They're not going to get aggression points. They didn't fire let alone land a hit with the active weapon. So they wouldn't get anything there from me. Control, obviously, they get the full bit. But that's a small part. So yeah, to me that was an obvious, and I shouldn't say obvious, but an overwhelming to me. Hydra loss and Huge win, and I completely see where I would not have been able to keep it together as well as Jonathan did after the fight. But a lot of this too is it's not so much the in the moment judging, and it's not so much how things go down in the arena. If this was a different event with a different set of expectations and a different course of history that led people to believe that the judging would be done in a different way, like 100%, that's the stuff Hydra did. Put that the bike rack, if you want to call it. I don't mean that in disparaging, right? They're great attachment. Put that on and control the fight and win. If that was what folks there were used to and they expected that would work and be allowed, go for it. But even just being my second year and that being halfway through, a third of the way through, I was like, that doesn't seem like that is in the realm of what has been considered okay in the past. So I wouldn't have thought it.
And one last thing to add before we get Ray's thoughts on it is, you know, I'm thinking about the judges card as I'm watching this fight, and then waiting for the decision. And I probably would have had it be huge, even if just by 1 point, you know, because like I said, the strategy just blew me away. I was like, wow, like he really went that extra mile to put this thing on there to just corral the spot and try to use the arena to his advantage, which we see all the time. But him not using his weapon rubbed me the wrong way. But then I also wonder if him with the whole I'm not touching him, like he can move, like just his attitude throughout the fight, if it would have been even just a little tapered back, if people would have been as upset as they are about the decision. And that kind of plays into the back of my mind too, because he's not afraid to be that guy and play that role, which Ray, we thought you were going to be that for the longest time, but you're just my favorite villain because yes, and you're just awesome. So your thoughts as a veteran, what you thought both when you were there and now rewatching it.
I watched the fight live at the event. I actually haven't watched how it was edited and shown on the show yet. So, so my only take is watching it live at the time. And they did fire the weapon prior to the match to display that it worked. They never fired it after that. So they did at least show that it was connected and it did work. They just didn't use it. Okay. Having said that, watching it live, it was one of those things. I was really the only one out of all the matches I watched this season where I was like, I don't want to judge that. It was one where I was like, because you know, you could make the case either way. I you know, it was one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It was going to be a tough one to try to nail down. And usually I'm pretty good at having an opinion on almost everything. So usually I'm pretty good about, you know, how I would judge exactly how a fight went. And that's one where I was glad I wasn't sitting in a judge's seat. That was going to be a tough one.
Yeah, like Pete Abramson, the bot whisperer, said, I don't want any part of the internet, and I don't blame him whatsoever, because you guys are in such a unique spot as not only a competition, but a pre-recorded competition. We're not talking like Survivor. We're talking, you know, head-to-head, you know, UFC style robot fighting. And part of me, what's really interesting is people want episodes to change, you know, one to the next, but they can't, because they've already, what's done has already been done. So you have the beta decision where they didn't fire their primary weapon, and some are going to be like, well, they didn't do that either. Yeah, but it still wasn't a rule at this point during the taping. Like, if it's going to be a rule, it'll be the next season when they go back and they adjust all this. So what I love and what people will hate about Jake Ewert is that he is that guy that knows the rule book frontwards and backwards, and he will take every advantage he can get. So if there's not a rule that says you have to fire your primary weapon, he will not fire his primary weapon if he's got this corral thing on the front of his bot trying to use the arena to his advantage.
And to be fair, the way that was designed and shaped, he had to drive perfectly every time he engaged to do that. So I mean, it was a gamble in that regard.
Well, he's definitely the villain. And Ray, I think like with you didn't necessarily like try to be the role of the villain. They just kind of forced you into it. Jake, I feel like is wanting to be the actual villain. Ricky, could you see yourself as a villain on BattleBots?
I don't. Well, maybe in a very different world, but no, I can't imagine that happening. No.
Well, the way that we'll close this thing out is get your guys' thoughts on and then there were 7 5 episodes in. There are 7 undefeated teams that have had more than just one fight. So these are the folks that are 2-0 that we've kind of gotten a better look at. So for people thinking, hey, there's way more undefeated come on now, like the sample size here. All right, keep up. So we have Mad Catter. Wow, okay, very impressive. Malice, Bloodsport, Jackpot, Hydra, I think kind of expected, Lockjaw, and then Black Dragon. Witch Doctor, Hypershock, sorry Ray, Tombstone not mentioned in those. But Ricky, obviously, you guys could end up being on that list, hopefully sooner than later. But out of these 7, and let's start with you, Ricky. At this point in time during the tapings, who are you most impressed with and why?
Well, impressed is a there's a lot of breadth there, right? I was super impressed, like I said, with Jackpot because just the not just what it worked, and not just what it did, but where it came from to do it was stunning to me. And the Black Dragon team also, they were pitted next to us, and their work and how well they did it, in addition to how well they worked in the box, it matched perfectly. So I was really impressed with both of those teams.
Ray, what about you?
So I actually helped out here we go, another team I'm mentoring. I actually helped out a bit with Malice with some of the things that they were working on in that one, and everything that they've done on that is really good. They've made a lot of changes and design things for getting there and whatnot, and it was pretty effective all the way around. It held together really well, and so I was impressed with how well they've done with it.
I think Donnie and the whole team of Malice is impressed with how they're starting 2-0 this season. Every time you see them.
Well, and the thing is, they should be. I mean, it's you should be patting yourself on the back. They've had a couple of rough matches and they came out on top. I mean, you should be happy about that.
Yeah, I was going to say Bloodsport, Mad Catter have really impressed me. Malice is impressive, just because not only with their wins, but the way that they're winning. Very, very decisive, very few decisions. I know Malice, that was a split decision with Shatter, but Shatter's been actually really good this season as well. Kind of like a chomp before the walking chomp that you had out there. Well, folks, once again, they are Ray Billings and Ricky Willems of BattleBots. You can catch new episodes on Discovery every Thursday at 8/7 Central, and new episodes of Red Square, Blue Square Friday at whatever time we get to uploading it. But it's still your go-to for a recap and reaction after every new episode of BattleBots. It's great to be back. Again, Happy New Year, and thank you so much, Ray and Ricky. You guys have been a real treat to be on.
The last minute.
Yeah. All right. So we close it out.
Yeah. We and break to commercial. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Really, I appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your night and enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks much. And
thanks for having us. This was fun.
Yeah, very fun. Nice to see you, Ray.
Yeah, good seeing you, buddy.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
All right.